Right now, we do have Patrick Haan with GasBuddy because, as we talk, 45 million Americans are expected to hit the road here in the next, beginning today. Today is really the beginning.
Cincinnati.
I'll go to Cincinnati on Saturday. Thankfully, it's not too far, but gas is still well above the $4 mark, so it's not cheap at that. But we're kind of looking at some trends when it comes to
in Ohio specifically. A gallon of gas is $4.76.
Right.
So that's a lot of money.
Patrick Haan, the head of petroleum analysis with GasBuddy, joins us right now. Patrick, what are we kind of looking at when it comes to trends for gas right now nationwide, no matter where you go?
Yeah, I know GasBuddy's forecasting some of the highest gas prices this summer.
And it's going to, right now we're already rivaling 2022 in terms of the most expensive Memorial Day. So kind of a dubious title, kicking off the summer with some of the most expensive prices in a while. Columbus just saw prices jumping up to $4.89 a gallon earlier this week. That had to do with oil prices that jumped up after President Trump threatened potential new attacks on Iran. Fairly ominous look at summer, and the strait has remained closed now as I look at my calendar for 81 days. And we're still not seeing the strait reopen. Now, there's been some talk this week about the president had said that the U.S. and Iran are in final stages of maybe coming to a deal. Oil prices did decline significantly yesterday, but the real question is if that's going to happen, right? We've heard that refrain, we're close to a deal. Iran has even said that the strait's open, then they closed it another 12 hours later. So I'm hoping that'll happen, but 81 days in, it still hasn't yet. So our summer forecast is based on the strait remaining closed for a long period of time, and it could be a record-setting summer, but I have to put a heavy caveat on that. Certainly, it's going to be very contingent on how long the strait ends up being closed. If it's closed all summer, I think it'll be easily record-setting. If it reopens, we could see some relief. So, if you guys have a crystal ball that's better than mine, maybe you have some insight on when the strait will reopen, but I certainly don't have that crystal ball.
And the longer this stays closed, we've come down a bit from the highs that we had a few weeks ago when, we were at $5 or above. The longer this goes on, do we expect that to encroach back up toward the $5 mark or higher?
Well, the longer the strait remains closed, the more that's a possibility. Now, we did slingshot from the low to mid fours up to almost 5, and that was primarily due to refining issues that surfaced. Those are starting to clear up. So we may experience a little bit of a break in the increases here for now. If you're not in a rush to fill up, don't, because prices in Columbus could fall 20 to 30 cents going into and maybe into Monday. So in the next week alone, wait as long as possible to fill up because prices will be going down. Oil prices plummeted, as I mentioned yesterday, unless there's some sort of new development. But where we go this summer is largely going to be contingent on whether we get a deal or not. I would expect that on next Tuesday after the holiday weekend, if there's not a deal yet, or if it falls apart, then we could be back to seeing prices go up. But with those refining issues that have greatly improved, it's probably not necessarily immediately going to be going back up to $4.99. You'll notice that this time we went up to $4.89 this week. So that's a modest improvement. There's a long way we can go lower this weekend. But yeah, the longer the strait remains closed, we could eventually hit the $5 mark, maybe at some point in June. Mid to late June, if the strait's not reopened by then.
So the survey that GasBuddy released yesterday found that 67% of all American gas consumers are basically not really changing their driving habits. What do you think is the biggest behavioral shift that we're going to see if these prices keep increasing?
Well, we are seeing at least motorists that responded to our survey are starting to tell us that the cost is certainly prohibitive. Last summer, we saw 69% of Americans plan to hit the road between Memorial Day and Labor Day. That number this year declined to about 56%. So Americans are already feeling the pain of sharp increases in prices. And of those that said that they're going to be hitting the road, 67%, two-thirds, already saying that gas prices are directly impacting their driving plans. And on a different question, 36% say rising costs are causing them to take fewer road trips. So, there's going to be a lot of Americans out there, but maybe not quite as many as what we saw last year. And most of it has to do with these gas prices that are approaching $5 and could exceed $5 this summer if the strait remains closed.
Are there certain regions of the country that are going to be hit harder with these increased prices? Is Ohio looped in there?
Well, Ohio, if you look at the map behind me real close, you'll see that the Great Lakes are pretty high right now. And again, that has to do with some of those refining issues that are starting to clear up, especially for diesel, by the way. If you're a diesel consumer, if you're a trucker, you have a pickup that tows and you consume diesel, diesel prices should decline 25 to 50 cents over the next few weeks. As these refinery issues cleared up, you'll notice that diesel prices were impacted more. They're quite a bit above $6. So diesel should fall back quite a bit. But this summer, once these refining issues clear up that cause prices to go nearly to $5, Ohio should be kind of close to or slightly below the national average, which this morning about 4.55 a gallon for the national average. So once we get these refinery issues behind us, Ohio should settle back in close to the national average. The West Coast is going to be where the most pain is. California, $6 a gallon right now. And the Gulf states, if you're headed to areas like Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, et cetera, the map again behind me on GasBuddy.com, those are the areas where you generally see lower prices because lower taxes and proximity. But also, if you cross the border into Indiana, by the way, right now, Indiana, one of the cheapest states in the nation because they are waiving their use tax and their excise tax. And so if you go to Indiana, you're going to find prices below $4 a gallon at several, well, probably hundreds of stations.
So for viewers trying to save money right now, what are the biggest mistakes drivers are making at the pump? And what are simple strategies that they can do and use to help lower these costs?
Well, fuel efficiency, your driving habits are a big part of it, especially if you're towing something. Going just a little bit slower can have a huge impact in increasing your fuel efficiency. And guys, I tell you what, I'm probably the worst at not wanting to sit in the car. I want to just get to where I need to go. But ultimately, if you go 65 instead of 75 for an entire tank of fuel, you'll probably get the equivalent of 1 to 2 gallons free because you're going to extend the amount of miles you get out of that tank. So driving habits, using your cruise control, maybe going 5 under the limit this summer is going to drastically improve the amount of miles you get per tank. When you do need to fill your tank up, of course, apps like GasBuddy with prices all over the map. If you're headed down to Dayton, by the way, $4.69 a gallon is what they went up to. So a little bit of savings there. And the GasBuddy app will show you where all those low prices are. In addition, loyalty programs, that's what it's all about this summer, especially those loyalty programs that reduce prices at the pump immediately by just signing up. So that's a great way to save another 5 or 10 cents.
All right, Patrick, Haan, petroleum analysis with GasBuddy. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.